A fateful encounter. February 6th, 1961. February 6th, 1961. It was a cold, crisp morning in the heart of suburban America. The streets were lined with neatly trimmed hedges and the occasional puff of smoke from chimneys, a testament to the winter chill. The date, February 6, 1961, would soon be etched into the memories of those who lived through it. A day that began like any other. The sun rose slowly, casting a pale light over the quiet neighborhood. Children prepared for school, mothers packed lunches, and fathers readied themselves for another day at work. The humdrum of daily life continued, seemingly undisturbed. Yet, beneath this veneer of normalcy, destiny was weaving a different tale. But for Fred Tones, a respected realtor, it would be his last. Fred was known for his integrity and dedication. He had built a reputation over the years, helping countless families find their dream homes. On this particular day, he was scheduled for a meeting that seemed no different from the many he had attended before. He had a meeting, a seemingly ordinary appointment. The office building stood tall, a symbol of the burgeoning economic prosperity of the era. Fred walked in, briefcase in hand, ready to discuss the details of a new property deal. Little did he know, this meeting would be unlike any other. Carolyn Lima and Leslie Elaine Perez awaited his arrival. The two women sat in a tastefully decorated living room, their expressions a mix of anticipation and anxiety. They had their reasons for meeting Fred, reasons that would soon unfold in a dramatic fashion. The air crackled with unspoken tension. As Fred entered the room, he could sense the unease. The usual pleasantries were exchanged, but there was an underlying current of something more profound, something that words could not easily capture. This encounter would seal their fates. The conversation took a turn, moving from business to personal matters. Voices were raised, emotions ran high, and the atmosphere grew increasingly charged. It was clear that this was no ordinary meeting, and changed their lives forever. As the meeting concluded, the weight of what had transpired hung heavily in the air. Fred, Carolyn, and Leslie left the room, each carrying the burden of the day's events. Their lives, once on separate paths, were now irrevocably intertwined by the fateful encounter of February 6, 1961. The echoes of that day would resonate through their lives, shaping their futures in ways they could never have imagined. The investigation unraveling a gruesome crime. The discovery was chilling. Fred Tones lay lifeless. His body bore the marks of violence, murder. The word hung heavy in the air. Detectives swarmed the crime scene. Every piece of evidence whispered a tale of brutality. The investigation began. It would be a race against time. On the run, a desperate flight from justice. Panic set in. Lima and Perez knew they were in danger. Suspicion fell upon them. They became fugitives. Days turned into nights as they fled. Desperate to stay one step ahead of the law, their freedom was an illusion, a ticking time bomb. Capture and trial, facing the consequences. The wheels of justice began to turn as the courthouse doors opened to a new chapter in this gripping saga. The imposing structure stood as a symbol of law and order, ready to deliver its verdict. The long arm of the law finally caught up. After months of relentless pursuit, the authorities managed to corner the elusive fugitives. The arrest was swift and decisive, a testament to the dedication and perseverance of law enforcement. Lima and Perez were apprehended. The two young women, once thought to be untouchable, were now in custody. Their faces showed a mix of defiance and resignation as they were led away in handcuffs, their fate now in the hands of the judicial system. Their trial became a media sensation. Reporters from all over the country flocked to the courthouse, eager to capture every moment of the high-profile case. The courtroom sketches and live broadcasts turned the trial into a spectacle, drawing the attention of millions. The courtroom was a stage. Every word, every gesture was scrutinized by the public eye. The judge's bench, the witness stand, and the gallery were all part of the grand theater of justice where the drama of human lives played out. Prosecutors presented a damning case. The jury listened intently. Evidence was meticulously laid out, piece by piece, painting a vivid picture of the crimes committed. The legal arguments were sharp and compelling, leaving little room for doubt. Their verdict would determine the fate of two young women. Guilty. The jury's deliberation was tense and thorough, reflecting the gravity of their decision. When the verdict was finally delivered, the courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and despair. A glimmer of hope, the execution stayed. Despite the overwhelming evidence and the guilty verdict, there was a moment of reprieve. Legal documents were filed, and the judge decided to stay the execution, offering a brief respite in an otherwise bleak outcome. The story was far from over, and the next chapter awaited. Sentenced to death. The words echoed in their ears. Hope seemed lost, but fate had other plans. A stay of execution, a beacon of light in the darkness. The legal battle was far from over, but for now, they had been granted a reprieve. Retrials and uncertainty, the wheels of justice grind. The legal system churned on. Retrials were ordered. Years passed. Lima and Perez remained imprisoned, their lives on hold, the outcome uncertain. Each trial brought a mix of hope and despair. The shadow of their crime loomed large, daring escape, a fugitive once more. The news sent shockwaves. Leslie Elaine Perez had escaped. She vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of questions. Authorities launched a nationwide manhunt. Perez was now a ghost, a phantom pursued by the ghosts of her past. The FBI's most wanted, a nation on high alert. Perez's name and face were plastered everywhere. Wanted posters, news bulletins. She became one of the FBI's 10 most wanted, a symbol of defiance. Her escape captivated the nation. The public was both intrigued and terrified. Where was she hiding? Recapture and reflection, a life reclaimed. This is the story of Maria Perez, a woman whose life took a dramatic turn when she was arrested and led away in handcuffs. Her journey from that moment would be one of profound transformation. Years later, Perez was found. After years of evading the authorities, living in the shadows, and constantly looking over her shoulder, the day finally came when her hiding place was discovered. The search team, relentless in their pursuit, had finally tracked her down. Her time on the run had come to an end. The fugitive life, filled with uncertainty and fear, was over. The authorities moved in swiftly, ensuring there was no chance for another escape. Perez was apprehended, and the long chase was finally over. She was extradited back to face justice. The journey back was somber, filled with the weight of what was to come. Perez knew that this time there would be no running away. She was being brought back to face the consequences of her actions. This time, there would be no escape. But something had changed. As she stood in the courtroom, facing the judge and the jury, it was clear that Perez was not the same person who had fled years ago. The fear that once gripped her was gone. Gone was the fear in her eyes. In its place was a new resolve, a quiet strength that spoke volumes. Perez had spent her years on the run reflecting on her life, her choices, and the path that had led her to this moment, replaced by a quiet determination. She was no longer the frightened woman who had once fled from the law. Instead, she was someone who had come to terms with her past and was ready to face whatever lay ahead with a calm and steady resolve. She had found a sense of peace. In the midst of the courtroom's chaos, Perez exuded a serenity that was almost palpable. It was as if she had finally found herself, reclaimed her life, and was ready to start anew, no matter the outcome of the trial. Finding purpose, from convict to activist. Behind bars, Perez underwent a transformation. She dedicated her life to education, to helping others. She became an advocate for prison reform. Her voice, once silenced by fear, now spoke truth to power. She had found her calling. Legacy of resilience, a story of redemption and hope. Leslie Elaine Perez's story is one of tragedy, of resilience, and ultimately of redemption. She emerged from the ashes of her past, a testament to the power of the human spirit. Her story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can bloom.